the Point After Podcast with your host, Julien Barnett.
What is up? What is up, fantasy world? Welcome into the Point After Podcast. I'm your host, Julien Barnett, brought to you live, as always, from the Great White North on the True North Podcast Network, sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight, proud partners there, as well as our friends over at Viridian Global. We'll get into all of that, but thank you for joining us on this fabulous Friday night. It has been a long week. We have had a already exciting start to the week of football. Last week, ended on a high note. We had a crazy Sunday. A bunch of things happened. But, we're here we got a full docket today. We're going to be building some DFS Captain Showdown slates. We're going to be playing some games over on Monkey Knife Fight. We got a touchdown dance in store for you guys, trying to redeem ourselves from last week because Coach and I did not do too hot. I hope you did not follow in our footsteps. With that being said, I want to welcome my co-host here, Coach Craig. Coach, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Hopefully the people at home put that Adam Thielen in there we talked about earlier.
Fingers crossed. I mean, and had we put Adam Thielen in there and still played Dalvin Cook, we actually would have hit that touchdown dance. But instead, we pulled him. We put Chase Claypool in, and it definitely let us down. And so down on the bottom there, at the bottom of the screen, we've got my good friend Chris Robin, as he likes to go by. You can find him on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. Chris, how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm fantastic, boys. Thank you. And you know what? You guys, because I wasn't on last Friday.
Well, now we're here. You can help us if we cash in this week and we actually make some money, Chris. We know who to thank, right?
Absolutely.
Well, hopefully we get a nice call here. So let's get into it, guys. We've got a pretty fun game that just happened yesterday. I just want to talk really quickly about this Washington football game and the New York Giants Washington football team game, because it was pretty fantastical. It came right down to the wire. A field goal ended it. This wasn't really a game script that I personally expected. I know, Coach, you had some different expectations. So what are your thoughts after this game? Taylor Heineke came out and won the game at the end down the stretch there, albeit playing against the New York Giants. What are your takeaways here? Oh no, guys. Did I cut out there? Can you hear me?
No, we're good, I think.
Okay. Well, Coach, take me through your thoughts, buddy. I think Chris might have froze. Dan says sell. There we go. Yeah, Chris froze, but we're keeping it real here, Coach. Yeah. So I'm off to a shaky start, but here we are.
So I think there's some interesting things out of this game. I tweeted out some of them looking back at the snap counts already. Saquon Barkley obviously played more in this game. He went from 48% of snaps to 84% of snaps. So that was obviously a positive thing, which I actually kind of thought would happen. Maybe they just limited him the first game since they played back-to-back so close together. Antonio Gibson, he was kind of limited as well because of the game script. And, he's got that shoulder injury too. People need to realize that he has this shoulder injury. They're not going to give him the ball 20 times a game. It affects his pass catching ability as well. So it's something we're going to have to live with for a couple of weeks at this point in time. Taylor Heineke, he looked pretty good, actually. Daniel Jones even looked good. And they were running a lot of RPO, running him around. He did pretty good that way as well. So,
yeah, no kidding. It was just shy of 100 yards last night. I mean, that was pretty surprising. I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect Daniel Jones to be the leading rusher on this team. I guess I didn't expect it not to be. I didn't think Saquon would be, really in for a big night. 84% of snaps is actually more than I thought that he was going to see. And, it is good to see that as somebody who has to rely on Saquon Barkley in our fantasy football show competition. So, fingers crossed that I can make it through to the next couple of weeks and he can really hit his stride. But I definitely agree. Sterling Shepard, I thought, looked really great. He was just a target monster. Seemed like every time he would get the ball, he was just open in space, which was, really fantastic. Kenny Golladay, a couple takeaways for me was, you just had the case of some drops, and it was really rough to watch. Like, these are plays that you expect a guy who, got paid what he got paid this offseason to make, and in clutch situations, he's dropping the ball. So, that was a little concerning for me. I also didn't really like the way that they used him. I think Kenny Golladay is better used downfield. But I did like what they did with the play action and Daniel Jones, and how they're able to use that read option and get him mobile in space. He doesn't seem like he should be able to run, but he actually can move pretty good. And he definitely put it on display tonight. Dan throwing in the comments, Slayton drop was a killer. Yeah, and I mean, I would be pissed too if that Slayton drop hurt my soul, man. First, KJ Hamler with Denver this weekend, and then this Darius Slayton on the Thursday night football game. It killed me, man. So, do you have anything else to add to that?
I'll say that Slayton drop. If he catches that ball, I probably win immunity in our fantasy football competition. I think, by the way, I figured it out. So I seen that. I was like, what the heck, buddy? Like, you're right. But I'll say with Kenny Golladay, it's the same thing we always seen. He can't separate. He's just a big jump ball guy. And I don't think Daniel Jones is the best guy to be throwing those type of jump balls, but big props to this offensive line. They shut down that Washington defensive line very well most of the night. Kidding. And all four starters for the Washington defensive line played at least 74% of the snaps. And Daron Payne was the lowest one. He's obviously more the run stuffing defensive tackle. The other three guys, they all played 81% or more. So it's not like they weren't out there. Chase Young was out there all but like 3 or 4 snaps the whole game.
And Chase looked good. They were just doing a really good job holding him down.
Yeah. And I say, like, the biggest takeaway from me from this is Daniel Jones can sling the rock, but you don't have an offensive line. His biggest problem is it takes him too long to process too. So you got a offensive line that can't block plus a guy that takes longer to process the field. So if you put a decent offensive line around him, maybe he could do all right. So maybe if it doesn't work out in New York, maybe he goes somewhere else with a better offensive line. Maybe it'll work there, because he has traits that could work out in an NFL scheme. It's just he's not in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. And I think they're trying to unlock him that way, as we had, said with his rushing ability, but it would be nice to see them, put pieces around him where he can really, let that ball go and sling that ball around. But yeah, let's dive into our touchdown dance tonight. We'll try and redeem ourselves from last week, Coach. Chris, he was in here. His connection was a little shaky. He said he was going to try and figure out his internet. So hopefully he's able to get back on with us. It's been a little shaky since the get-go, but I'm hoping he's able to get back on here. But we'll dive into our first event for the night, is what we'll call it. So this is a touchdown dance courtesy of Monkey Knife Fight. This segment's called Makin' Bank, because that's exactly what we're going to do, unless it's week 1. We don't make bank in week 1. Don't go back and watch that episode. So yeah, we're doing the afternoon slate here. I believe this includes the evening game as well. So we have 4 games worth of players that we can pick through. Basically, we're going to pick 3 players, and we're going to set a line for them to score amount of touchdowns above. If we hit that line, then it pays out at whatever it says it is. We pick 2.5, 1.5, 3.5, 3, so on and so forth. So, Coach, with our first pick, take me through your thoughts with some of the players that are on the board here. I'm not sure if you can see them. We got the likes of Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson, Zeke, Austin Eckler. Some of these matchups, in my opinion, are not super favorable for fantasy, but where are you at?
I think the first one that we're going to go to is going to be a wide receiver once again. It's going to be a wide receiver that didn't do too much week 1. And that's Mr. Mike Evans. He has a long history of dominating against the Falcons. He is a touchdown scorer, so I think there's a good chance. He didn't really quite get all the targets last week. He only had 2 catches. So maybe there's a little chance that, hey, Tom Brady throws him a bone and says, hey, didn't get you last week. I'm going to get you this week.
I hope you're right. And this is what Mike Evans does. He scores touchdowns. That's That's his big thing. And, I think he's always had a history of doing this where he's a bit wishy-washy and he'll go, a game or two where he really lets you down. He only has a reception or two. And then, the next week he scores 3 touchdowns. So I think in a setting like this where, we're picking these 3 guys to score a maximum amount of touchdowns as possible, I'm actually on board with this pick. I think you're right. Tom Brady does get him involved. He always kind of tends to get his auxiliary pieces involved. And, the glory of this football team over in Tampa is that there isn't really any auxiliary pieces. All of these players can make plays. And, Tom Brady has the luxury of throwing to whoever he wants to, and, whoever's open in the end zone. So I'm on board. Let's go with our second pick here. Is anybody jumping out to you?
I'll just say with Mike Evans too, and maybe just because you saw the week 1 tape and you've seen Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski doing well, then you put a little bit extra focus on those guys, and then that's, hey, we forget about him. He's one-on-one. If you put Mike Evans in one-on-one coverage against Fabian Moreau or like AJ Terrell, he's going to eat those guys alive every day.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I love the analysis, Coach. I was just looking at some of our players here as you were speaking there, and immediately DeAndre Hopkins pops into mind. A guy who scored twice last week, but I actually, that deters me away from picking him. It's more of a probability game. I think like the likelihood that he scores twice in 2 games back to back is super unlikely. So he's probably a guy I'm going to fade in a setting like this. I probably want to lean towards the guys who didn't score last week because in all likelihood they're going to be more involved this week if they're a known playmaker on that team. So some guys who do stand out to me, obviously, I think Adam Thielen is a guy who Kirk Cousins is looking for in the red zone. I don't hate the idea of going Adam Thielen in this one. I know I just said I don't want to go with a player who scored two touchdowns. But I think Adam Thielen is the type of receiver that's where he really makes his money in fantasy football and on his team. Like that's where they look to him. So what are your thoughts? I just listed off a few guys. So take me through, where you would be going.
I think Thielen's an interesting one because he could be lining up sometimes against rookie corner and Marco Wilson out of Florida, who is like a 5th round pick. So that's definitely one in play for sure. I do like both Seattle wide receivers. Obviously, the Tyler Lockett had 2 touchdowns last week, and DK Metcalf had 1 last week as well. And they are going against, let's see, who the heck are they going against? Oh, wait. I'm thinking. So they're going against the Titans, but that game is supposed to have a little bit of rain in it too. So maybe guys like Chris Carson and Derrick Henry get a little bit more interesting if that game ends up playing in the rain, that you could see touchdowns from those 2 players. Let's see who. But I think every wide receiver in that game is a viability for a touchdown. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett are all pretty much a viability to score 1 touchdown. I do like Julio Jones a lot this week. I think he's going to line up against Trey Flowers. I kind of talked about that on the Gold Jacket podcast we were both on Tuesday.
Just go check it out on the True North Fantasy Football Network on YouTube.
I think Ezekiel Elliott's a great choice as well. I think he's due for some big regression this week, and I think they're really going to try to pound the rock with him. So I think that's
I just wanted to bring up that Dallas game because that's going to be a big one. I mean, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points scored in that game. And I'd even, be potentially looking at these wide receivers as well. We got Amari Cooper and obviously and CeeDee Lamb. And, I think either of those guys could be, I think one of them is a lock for a touchdown. One of those wide receivers is going to score at some point. It's just determining which one it is. I like the Zeke call too. And, because the fact we have 1 wide receiver in our lineup already, I'm kind of inclined to go running back. So if we are leaning that way, would you go with the ground and pound, Derrick Henry, Chris Carson type, or do you think Zeke's going to be the play this week?
I think both are honestly good options because you could have a little bit of, Zeke getting in there when it's close, or because you don't really have like the super deep play with Dallas now. That was kind of more the Michael Gallup role. So maybe you get closer to the goal line. That's a whole nother situation. Derrick Henry, he's kind of been a slow starter, but sometimes when he has those bad games, he'll get those touchdown games as well. And I kind of do like I like Chris Carson if it's a rainy game, but at this point we don't know that. But I think that definitely favors both running backs. But there is supposedly a high chance of rain for like the next 3 days in Seattle.
Yeah, Tom's hooking us up in the comments. Heavy rain expected in Seattle. He's taking Carson in this. Should we call in a friend? Should we Should we let Thomas make this pick for us? Lock in Chris Carson, and then our last spot will be one of the guys that I think we've talked about. We're gonna have to decide between Zeke, Thielen, another guy I'd like to throw out there. Obviously a guy that we went with that last week in Dalvin Cook, and then Justin Jefferson. Like there's this Minnesota game, this team's gonna score points as well. So I'm kind of like looking at those guys, and then the last one's AJ Brown, Julio Jones. Like that. One of those wide receivers is also likely to score. So it's really like picking apart which one of these, has the highest probability to potentially score twice. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. So let's go Chris Carson for
Yeah, we'll lock that in here. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go, Tom.
And then I honestly, let me see here real quick. I'm just trying to look up something real quick. So that's the right side. Let me see. I kind of want to go Justin Jefferson.
Just because he didn't score last week?
A little bit.
It's coming. It's got to happen, right?
And he's more likely to line up against Marco Wilson based on the snaps of where each guy played last week.
All right. Well, Coach, I'm trusting you here. I'm on board with it. Let's throw Justin Jefferson in. Dan would be so proud. I know he was here with us. I think he did have to pop out for a little bit, but I know how pumped he's going to be knowing that we are counting on his boy, Justin Jefferson, this week. It's like that. And then where's the line you're setting this at? I think this is, a really valuable part of this game that gets overlooked, right? A lot of people just set it to the highest one possible, get the highest payout, but it's really a probability game here. I think, it is the most likely that one of these guys is going to score twice. I think it's relatively tough to say, two of these guys are going to score twice while the other one also scores. So I'm inclined to go at the 3.5, put 5 on that. And, that pays out a solid $15, which I feel is relatively safe. Where are you at?
That's probably where I'm at too, because the way I look at it is probably looking at 2 touchdowns out of Mike Evans, 1 out of Chris Carson, 1 out of Jefferson. One of those, somebody's going to get 2, and hopefully the other 2 get 1. We might end up with 5, but I think 4 is kind of like the safe where we're at.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not in like a desperation play to earn back our money. So with our 5 this week, I'm going to throw that down there, and hopefully we'll pay out another 15 that we can put into a couple other contests next week, Coach. So that was Makin Bank, courtesy of Monkey Knife Fight. I would play the ad read for you guys, but we just showed you how to play on this app. So go check it out at monkeyknifefight.com. They've got not just football, but all kinds of player prop games, NHL, MLB. They've got soccer. They've got NASCAR on there. They've got UFC, everything you can think of to go and bet your little heart away, or I guess not bet your heart away, but there's a bunch of player props that you can go and do on there. Go check it out at monkeyknifefight.com. Use the promo code TNFF and get matched up to $50 on your first deposit. All right, Coach. Yep. So that kind of sums up our Monkey Knife Fight slate. I was originally, the plan was that we were all going to pick a player out of the group, but with Chris's connection dipping out, we had to go through that ourselves. So I expect this to take a little bit longer. Do you want to do a more or less here with this? Let's go the morning slate so we can just talk some other games that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, we can do that real quick, and then we can do some of the injuries and the other notes for the week too.
Yeah, you betcha. That's honestly my apologies, guys. I mean to start that at the beginning of the show. I always mean to do injuries, and I just get so excited about trying to win money that that we skip over it. But Coach puts a lot of work getting all these injuries together, and he's very educated on it. So we're going to be just going over that for players that didn't practice today, and it's big. It's Friday. If you don't play on the Friday, if you haven't practiced all week and you don't practice on the Friday, there's going to be some big fantasy implications. So we'll get into that. But let's just take a morning slate here. We'll do a more or less. We'll just get player prop. We'll do, I think, 3 here. Yeah, here we go. So we've got. This is the Steelers Raiders game specifically. I was hoping to do a varied game. Bad. You want to do this one? All right, let's do it.
I'm open.
These guys, the quarterbacks have the same line. Let's just do it because that's how often does that happen? That never happens. Well, let's start with the easy one. The guy with 19 targets last week. We'll go more on Darren Waller. I mean, there's
that 6.5 catches?
Yeah, 6.5 catches, which is what his line was last week as well, actually.
Yeah, so that one's probably pretty safe. I don't think he's going to get 19 again, though. But it is important to note that
it's going to be like 12. But even 12, he probably catches like 8 to 9 of those.
Yeah, and last year he did have a game of 17 and a game of 16, so it's not out of the range of possibility to happen twice, but the Steelers are probably going to try to take that away. They might even throw Minkah Fitzpatrick on him even in this game too, so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
So are you calling your shot here and taking the under? The less on 6.5?
I don't think it's that safe, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do that play during the game. I think he'll still much volume as he gets, he's still going to get it. But
well, and even 19 targets is absurd. Like we all know that. Even 12 is absurd. Like for him to get 12 targets a game is crazy. Realistically, he probably should see 9 to 10. And then have some games where he sees in the middling teens, but 19 is just absolutely crazy. But he is the best playmaker on that offense. And, when they need to get somebody in space and make a play, they're going to Darren Waller. So, and the thing that I think does make this relatively safe is they love to use him in the screen game and the short yardage slants. It's not like he has to make really difficult catches to get to that 7 reception mark. So I'm pretty comfortable going there. Let's move to the left. So moving on to Derek Carr, his line's at 271.5. 272 yards. I feel like this is actually, in my opinion, relatively safe for Derek Carr. But this Pittsburgh defense is very good. So that's the question I wanted to bring to you. Do you trust Derek Carr to be able to actually produce against this defense, or are you relying on Pittsburgh to be able to stop this, high passing attack offense?
So I think this is a tricky one, honestly, for Derek Carr, because if you look at last week, he balled out. They had the extra period too with overtime, but this is still the same defense that held Josh Allen to under 200 yards, I believe, off the top of my head. So that is a scary line, but there's no Josh Jacobs, so you only got Kenyon Drake, Peyton Barber, maybe Trey Ragas in the running game. So this one feels like an under to me. I think it could be a difficult game for the Raiders to get things kind of going, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, if the Buffalo Bills couldn't get it going, how are the Las Vegas Raiders going to be able to do it? But then, this week they looked really good on Monday night. So I'm not super confident in the over. And if I see Tom in the comments saying less, I know you're the less. So I'm going to go with you guys here. We'll hit the less on that. And then we go to our last man, Ben Roethlisberger, with the same line as Derek Carr, 271.5. This one does feel a lot easier to me, and I can confidently say I'm taking the more on this one. I think that they get it rolling this week. Last week was a really, really weird start for Pittsburgh. It was not what they were looking for, and I think they come out in an easier matchup against a less diligent defense and are able to move the balls. Which way do you lean?
So right now I do lean the more, and let me just say this too for our fantasy football league competition. I was trying to pick up Ben Roethlisberger this week because I have Dak Prescott on my team. I need a quarterback next week, and then I got outbid on him. So I was like, I really wanted him for next week. I can't remember who they play off the top of my head, but it was a good matchup too. I'm like, I think he's going to kill it. And I'll tell you one other Pittsburgh guy I really like this week is Juju Smith-Schuster. I know everybody kind of likes to crap on him, but he's got a matchup against rookie. I think he was a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick. I can't remember off the top of my head. And Nate Hobbs out of Illinois, who probably should have gone undrafted in the draft, but since he ran crazy pro day stuff, the Raiders took him, obviously.
Boom. All right. Well, are you thinking of maybe a DFS play? Is that a guy that you're targeting on a larger slate?
Yeah, I would consider him just depending on which site it is. I can't remember the exact pricing for him on both sites, but he's definitely somebody that's in play for me, given the matchup.
Let me pull it up. I'll find it for you, but just keep talking so we don't have a weird silence.
I can see if it's on my spreadsheet real quick if you want. I got my
Okay,
spreadsheet
sure.
up.
Yeah, you got it. You're way faster with your computer than I am, Coach.
Well, I got
now I have to do the talking. But
I have my spreadsheet up already because of the single game slates that we got. I got my player pools in there. So I actually don't have Juju Smith-Schuster in my initial player pool. I'll have to go back and check out the pricing on him. But he is somebody that I'm considering giving that matchup. And I think it's going to be a guy that's not, he's not going to be on a lot of people's lineups because it's Juju and people are so hit or miss with Juju in general.
Yeah, he's a guy that you just don't really feel confident throwing into your lineup there. And so when he hits late like that, he's not a high level or a high rostership player. Sorry. But I think we can agree. We got Big Ben on the more. Let's go ahead and lock that in. I'm just throwing $2 down on this one. This pays out a little higher, so we don't need to break the bank here, Coach. But let's set that up. Boom. So we've done now 2 Monkey Knife Fight games. Showed everybody how it works. We've put our money where our mouths are. Hopefully it pays off because it's actually just my money. And yeah, let's move into our injuries, Coach. I'm going to pull up our DraftKings lineup in the background. You take us through the injuries this week.
So for the people at home that don't know exactly how the more or less work, we have to get all 3 of those, right? Correct, to make money?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have explained that.
Yeah, just making sure I don't really know off the top of my head, and just for the people at home that might not know as well. So the injuries, the news and notes. So the biggest one that just came out is the Saints are going to be without 7 of their assistant coaches this weekend due to COVID protocol. I don't know the exact fine details about it, but they're all it's like the running backs coach, the assistant wide receivers coach, the offensive line coach, assistant special teams coordinator, and a couple other guys like that. It's not any major ones. It's not like Sean Payton, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the regular special teams coach, but that is still a lot of assistants to be playing a game without. So you're going to really have to look for some veteran leadership in this game, and we'll have to see. Maybe it gives the Carolina Panthers a little bit of edge that they need, since they are probably going to be the underdogs in this matchup. Yes,
I believe they are. I just had it pulled up here. They are they are, I think, 3-point underdogs in this game.
Yeah, and they're playing in Carolina too, I believe, right?
Yeah. This game's in Carolina.
So a neutral site, they'd be 6-point underdogs. So that's pretty bad for them, but we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see if that Saints defense still looks as good as they did last week. Marshawn Lattimore did have surgery, I believe, on his finger this week, so he's kind of questionable. I assume he's going to end up playing still. We'll see the debut of Bradley Roby most likely too, since he served his 1-game suspension after getting traded from the Texans. Now getting into the regular injuries, we got DeMarcus Lawrence, defensive end for the Cowboys, out with a broken foot. So you break a bone, especially in your foot, you're probably going to be out about 6 weeks. So initially they said indefinitely. So that's a big hit to their defensive line, to their pass rush overall. I believe Randy Gregory is still in the COVID list as well. So they're not going to have much pass rush this week. So Justin Herbert's going to probably have quite a bit of time, even though he did lose his offensive tackle, his right tackle, Brian Bulaga, to the IR as well with a back injury. Not too much else to say to that fantasy-wise, I don't think. Josh Jacobs is probably the biggest one that came out today. He's been dealing with that toe injury, and now he's got an ankle injury too. He is out for Sunday. So we're looking at some Kenyon Drake, like we already kind of alluded to, a little bit of Peyton Barber, maybe a little bit of undrafted free agent rookie Trey Ragas out of Louisiana as well. Let's talk about Kenyon Drake for a second, though. Where do you kind of have him ranked for this week then, against that Steelers matchup, being kind of that lead back?
Yeah, this is well, I saw a sleeper report today, so take it for what you will, that Peyton Barber is supposedly the lead back, and Kenyon Drake's going to serve as the pass catching back in that same role. I'm not really sure how that's going to play. I don't know how you can continue to play Peyton Barber. I will say, though, Coach, before we dive into this, I want to revert this question. We just got Thomas. He's hanging out in the comments, And I shot him a little Twitter DM, see if he wanted to jump in here. He said, hell yeah. And so Tom has joined us here. Tom, I want to get your thoughts on this question Coach just asked. What are your thoughts on this Oakland backfield? Are you playing any of these players this week? Are you plugging Kenyon Drake into your lineups with Josh Jacobs being out? Do you buy into Peyton Barber being the starting running back at all? Take me through your thoughts.
First off, I'm just going to keep my DMs completely open Friday nights because I think this is we're becoming a regular here on these.
You're just like jumping on. I was like, this is just how we roll, man. We just, we keep it free flowing. When I put it on, when I make the show title, I'll be like, Coach, Julien, Chris, and maybe Thomas are going to hang out tonight.
That's what's up. Look, I love y'all. Look, the thought of playing Peyton Barber in any scenario for any NFL team makes me nauseous. John Gruden shouldn't do it either. But he's gonna, because that's who he is. He's stubborn. I'm not playing any of them. I don't want to play any of them. If you have to, if it's a DFS thing, don't get cute. Avoid the slate pretty much completely.
Darren Waller.
If you have Josh Jacobs, you're like, well, that means I have to play Kenyon Drake. No, you don't. You don't have to. Don't do it. They split snaps pretty much completely, Jacobs and Drake. And I know Josh Jacobs was hurt. Didn't matter. Neither of them looked any good. They look like subpar NFL runners. So big yikes, big avoid. See you later.
Yeah, well, and I just wanted to point out what you're saying is just because one running back goes down doesn't mean that the next guy in line just immediately inherits all that volume. That's just not how fantasy football. It's not how football works. And trying to get cute like that, you're gonna lead yourself to upset. Don't put Kenyon Drake in your lineup. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm okay with being wrong about Kenyon Drake being good for a week. I've not taken that risk.
So, I don't even want to start the don't handcuff your running backs debate, but for the love of God, because your running back goes down, it does not mean your backup is that means he's automatically that same. It's not. That's why he's the backup, right?
Yeah.
It's just chill.
Yeah.
Yo.
Usually it's not the case. Even if Mike Davis worked out for a couple weeks last year, I had Christian McCaffrey in a league last year, and I didn't even bother picking up Mike Davis. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're probably fine.
Yeah.
You thought you missed out when he had 3 good weeks. And then if you were starting him in your fantasy playoffs, he probably lost you your fantasy playoffs.
You got to be careful because the handcuff your running back hive is going to come at y'all, and it's going to be my fault. So my bad. I apologize.
It's okay, Thomas. We'll let it slide. I'll defend your honor. Us Canadian boys got to stick together. Coach, you're close enough. You can just run to the border if you need.
Yeah, he's our adopted Canadian. I remember from last time.
Exactly.
Swim right across.
Oh, I love it. Coach, did you have any opinions to add on the running back situation?
So I believe I have Kenyon Drake when I updated my rankings earlier today, probably running back 30. So he's a flex. So if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you got a flex play and you got nobody else better to play, then you can play Kenyon Drake. That's kind of how I feel about it. You're hoping for 12 points in a PPR format. Maybe he falls in the end zone and makes your day. That's about it at this point, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's really what you're banking on is them to score. And I'm honestly just Kenyon Drake was terrible on the goal line last year. I've heard people say that he was really, he was a really efficient goal line runner. He was not. He had converted, I think it was like 15 or 20% of his goal line touches within the 10-yard line. And it was even less within the 5. That's really what shocked me. But we'll say it for what he is. He is a good pass catcher. If he gets the ball in space, he can probably make some people miss. He might get you 7 points. I think that's pretty much if you were to get 7 points out of playing Kenyon Drake, you should be happy, but you're not going to be because you're going to be starting him as an RB2 who you think is going to be really good in your lineup, and then he's just going to suck and you're going to be let down like I was with Saquon last night in the fantasy football competition show. So
just play a receiver in your flex. Don't play Kenyon Drake. Just play
exactly.
A receiver.
Find
a Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, swing for the fences, right?
Here's a guy.
Sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
Here's a guy you should be playing instead. Jacoby Myers. That's the perfect guy to play instead.
Easy money.
Yeah,
easy money.
And he's probably out there on waivers.
And if he's
most
not,
redraft
probably get him.
No, I mean not in Dynasty. In Dynasty leagues, I'm starting Jacoby Myers in mine. He can't be on waivers when I've got him.
Actually, right now, this is like the perfect time. If you have Kenyon Drake, go trade him for something. That's pretty much what you should be doing.
Hands off Jacoby Myers.
That was my dude first. I was buying him.
Yeah, it was Coach's dude first. He kind of turned me on to him, and now I can't stop. I'm just like, oh, Jacoby. All right, guys. So we as promised, Thomas, you missed us at the beginning of the show, but we promised that we were going to redeem ourselves. We're going to build a DFS slate for this week. We actually did pretty good on our build last week, Coach. We had it was the Rams and Raiders game. We had Cooper Kupp in our captain spot, who obviously scored the touchdown. Then we had Matt Stafford. We had Robert Woods, David Montgomery. And then I think we threw Deshaun Jackson in there as like a really cheap flyer so that we could, the last guy was Cole Kmet, I believe.
Cole Kmet.
Yeah, that was our lineup.
You want the rest of these injuries real quick?
Coach, yes, I do, but
he's dogging you.
We'll give you a quick little rundown. So one of the bigger news is Will Fuller's out for personal reasons. We'll see when he comes back.
Yes.
I'm just going to go on my whole little spiel here too. Don't go out there crapping on Will Fuller because he's missing a game. This is not injury related. We don't know what this is. For all we know, his father could have died. Somebody in his family could be terminally ill. Don't badmouth these players. You've seen it. You've heard it. Even people sending death threats to Raheem Mostert because he tore his meniscus. Don't be that type of person. These are NFL players. NFL players are people too. They still have thoughts and feelings, and they react to the same way that somebody else would react to like you. It's like saying if you got sick at your job, then be like, oh, well, Julian's never here anyways, pretty much. That, like, how would you feel like about that?
Yeah, I can't echo that enough, Coach. Like, these are real people, man. Like, they have real lives. And I mean, on that note, I have to often remind myself when setting fantasy lineups, like, don't get too caught up in like the matchup and like these are real people. These are real players who go out there on Sundays and play football games. Sometimes they're just exceptionally good and they do things we're not going to expect. Like, it just happens, players surprise you on a regular basis. And so, like, really don't, like, as serious as we do take this, don't take it too seriously, because we really are, like, we're making predictions and educated guesses, based off of the information that we have. But there's a reason any given Sunday is a famous term, and it can happen on any given Sunday. Players can come out and, light the world on fire. And like you said, they're humans, they're people too. And sometimes they do extraordinary things, and sometimes they have things happen in their life that, we don't know what's going on. And in this case, I just am really, really, hoping that Will Fuller's family is okay, and that, everything is going on okay in his personal life, because clearly, like, the way that I see this is somebody who missed the first week with a team that they signed in the signed within the off season, to sit out their first eligible week back after they had to miss last week because of a suspension. It has to be something, really, really serious going on in your life to set that aside and focus on personal matters. So, I just can't echo it enough. I wanted to say that on this episode too, because I saw some really, just shitty things on social media today, Twitter specifically, even about the Will Fuller situation.
Look, it's like we say it full tilt all the time. Is don't be a dick, and it's like it's our main motto, right? Be decent to each other. It's like if you work in an office setting and Ted's cat, goes missing, that he's gonna be distraught. Now imagine him not showing up at the office. You're like, whatever, Ted's not here. Now this guy's being expected to play by millions of people, and they're all yelling at you, going, you stupid son of a, your cat's gone missing. Why don't you like think about that for a minute, take that in, and think of any time you've missed work for something. It's just different for us to them, because we view players as tools to achieve something. So now we don't have that tool. We don't have that play toy for our other life. And sometimes that gets missed. So check yourself, because one day you're going to have to miss work and someone's not going to be happy about it.
Yes. And your employer is going to be relying on you, as us fantasy managers rely on them. And you need to understand that life happens, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows, and you can't always determine this. So Coach, take us through the rest of the injuries. I'm not going to skip it this time. When you're done the injuries, We have a question in the comments, and then we'll get into our captain showdown slate.
Okay, we're good. So Odell Beckham Jr. is out once again. We already talked about that last week. We already pretty much seen it play out on the field, so I don't think we really have to talk about that again. Trey Waynes, cornerback for the Cincinnati Bengals, probably their best corner, still out with a hamstring injury. Talked about that last week. Don't really need to talk about it too much again. Just helps the Bears wide receivers out overall. Xavier Rhodes out once again with his calf injury, and they are playing the Rams, so that probably helps Robert Woods out the most. Chris Harris Jr. is surprisingly out with a shoulder injury. He plays against the Cowboys, so whoever lines up in the slot against them is going to benefit from that, whether it's Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson, Tony Pollard, tight end, whoever you want to put in the slot.
There will be a lot. I mean, go back and listen. I just want to throw this in here real quick. I was listening to one of our fellow True North pods today, the OG True North podcast with Ty McLaughlin and Trav Seal. Their show was on Wednesday night, and they were talking about this exact situation, that the slot counts between the tight ends and the rest of the wide receivers. Both tight ends, Dalton Schultz had 18, Blake Jarwin had 19, Cedric Wilson had 23, CeeDee Lamb had 18 or 19, I believe, and then Amari Cooper was in that like 21 range. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. But I just, it's a really intriguing stat, because you kind of expect, those Michael, we talked about this after the Michael Gallup injury last Friday, kind of about who we expect to, see heavy target volume from this. And then we saw it this week just get spread around between all those guys. So it's, a nice little shout out to ourselves last week.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how they shake that whole slot roll out. Amari Cooper played 30 in the slot last week, which is the most of any of the players, but he could move to the outside because Cedric Wilson's probably better off in the slot. That's where he played the most in the preseason as well. Don't be surprised if Noah Brown plays a little bit on the outside too. He's kind of more like the direct backup to Michael Gallup. He played 20% of snaps a lot of times last year, so they are comfortable with him. They drafted him in the 5th round. It's like 4 years ago now, but so that's
he's
somebody
still
that's
there
too.
So he's doing something right.
I know a lot of people want to hype up Simi Fehoko, but he's not there at this point. Noah Brown was ahead of him still, and Noah Brown only didn't play last week because he had been on the COVID list before that. So I would expect him to be ahead of Simi still. Let's see where we're at. A couple Lions injuries. Tyro Williams got a concussion. He has not practiced all week, so I don't expect him to play on Monday night at this point in time. So you're looking at their wide receiver core wasn't very good to start with. He's probably their best one, and he's probably going to be out on Monday night. So that we'll talk about that more.
TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Oh, TJ Hawkinson. Oh,
yeah. They really priced TJ Hawkinson up on that Monday night slate as well. So that's pretty interesting. Deandre Swift and Jamal Williams both have been limited in practice so far this week. Swift with his groin still. I think it's just a maintenance thing. It's not anything that's bugging him still. Jamal Williams is a chest injury. Probably nothing major there either. But, if we get news all of a sudden that these two guys are out, then I guess, it's Sunday night, or it's going to be Monday night. So you're probably not going to be able, unless you have one of these two guys on your team, then I guess you could go run out and get Jamar Jefferson or Godwin. I can't even pronounce his last name. He's a converted safety that's playing running back now too. You could grab one of those guys or one of those wide receivers as a flex player or somebody on the Packers if you really need to in that situation. But I don't think it's anything that you're going to have to. Dwayne Eskridge out with he's doubtful now with the concussion. He hasn't practiced all week. I do not expect him to play. Freddie Swain's probably going to be the wide receiver 3. A great dart throw in DFS, but nobody you want to play in redraft at this point in time. I believe he's $3,400 on DraftKings. Shout out to Dan Brown, Florida guy right there. And then
love it.
Yeah. Then it looks like the two Jets wide receivers could be back this week. Keelan Cole with his knee injury, Jameson Crowder coming back from the COVID list. So we'll see how that shakes out with their wide receiver snaps. Obvious Elijah Moore played a lot last week, but he mainly played on the outside. So we'll see if he loses some snaps there. I assume Crowder's going to take over the slot role back over from Braxton Berrios. We'll see how much they play Keelan Cole. I know they do like him, but they could limit him as well. Then the last major one is Jonnu Smith, hip injury. He's been limited in practice 2 days this week. He is questionable at this point in time. If he is not able to go for whatever reason, bump up to Nelson Aguilar, bump up to Jacoby Myers, and big bump up to Hunter Henry. And then last but not least, the Colts and the Browns offensive line, both are severely banged up at this point. I believe the Colts are without Braden Smith at right tackle. Looks like Eric Fisher could make his debut for the season, though, this week.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you, Coach. See, now we can move on. But before we do, I actually want to go back to the Lions running back situation because, kind of heading into the season, we as fantasy managers weren't really sure what to expect with Jamal Williams. At least I wasn't. I always kind of had Deandre Swift locked in as a guy who, I thought, this is a locked and loaded. I have him as a back end RB1. And, now Jamal Williams is coming out and, looks like, one of the better pass catchers on this team, just a playmaker that they can roll out there. They don't have a whole lot of them. So are you guys comfortable playing both of these guys, moving forward? Do you think that Jamal Williams is a viable play or maybe Jamal Williams over Swift with this injury? Thomas, you take it away.
So I have a feeling that Deandre Swift is just going to be questionable all season. So you just got to be comfortable playing him with that tag. No, I'm not worried about him at all.
He's questionable 11, week 1.
Yeah, he's going to be questionable. He's going to be questionable the whole. He's going to be nicked up, banged up. Campbell's going to be messing with his knees all year. He had 11 targets. I think Jamal Williams had 9, if I'm not mistaken, and that's all they got. They're going to scheme these. It's Anthony Lynn. I'm not worried at all in PPR. Like even half-point PPR, I'm not worried at all. You can play Jamal Williams as a flex because I just think Deandre Swift will score more touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm comfortable with Jamal Williams as a flex, and you've got to play Deandre Swift in your starting back spot. He had 11 carries on a team that was, dog water and in a relatively tight game. But it was a relative, like they were playing comeback mode, which they're going to do, and they got targets.
All the time.
And all you want is that PPR spam targets. Give me Deandre Swift with 8 to 10 targets a week, and the dude's going to catch 80 passes this year. Yeah, all day, every day.
Yeah, I love it. I'm actually starting Jamal Williams in Scott Fishbowl this week. Yeah, I made that decision today. Last week I sat him. I didn't even think about it, to be honest. It was like he was now. And now I'm like, okay, all right, I gotta break this down. I thought I had a really solid starting lineup. I got the darling boy Marquez Callaway that I thought, I'll throw in there because I had Rojo. Hear me out. So I had Rojo on the Thursday night, and then he fumbled, got benched, and then I was playing from behind, and then I also had Aaron Rodgers. I only lost by 15 points. So if I had Jamal Williams in that lineup, even with Aaron Rodgers giving me -9 points in Scott Fishbowl settings, I still actually would have ended up on top of that week. So I feel like I can rebound from here. But I definitely got some good pieces there. And Jamal Williams is going to be one guy who, I'm rolling out in the flex and not playing Marquez Callaway this week.
Hey, so to be fair, Callaway had a rough matchup.
It was just it was a weird game script too. Like, I mean, Jameis threw 5 touchdowns and only 150 yards. Like that's odd. That doesn't happen very often. Like, where you're in a position like Marquez Callaway is a downfield guy. He's a big shot play guy. That's, really what you're, at least what I kind of am hoping for. I know some people see him as like the wide receiver 1 for them, but really what does that mean when your wide receiver 1 is a guy who only played in on 40 snaps last year? I think he only had 40 receptions last year. Sorry. My bad. But anyway, so that's where I'm at with Marquez Callaway. I'm happy I was able to go and pick him up, and potentially we'll see what we got. But he's not a guy that I'm planning on relying on any given week. We do have a comment here asking for some advice to start sit this week. We got Javonte Williams or J-Rob in a full PPR. And I on Tuesday night with Coach on the Gold Jackets podcast, I said Javonte Williams was my gold player this week. I love this matchup. I love the amount of usage he got last week, and I think he's going to be able to exploit this absolutely brutal Jacksonville defense. So I actually am leaning Javonte Williams there, but it's close. This is like one of those situations where you're looking at a guy who has the name value versus a guy who you're kind of betting on the upside of what he can bring. You haven't seen it in the NFL, fully unleashed yet. Whereas, J-Rob finishes the running back 7 last year. So, Coach, which way do you lean here on these two real quick?
Give me Javonte at this point. I think you at least know he's going to get the carries at this point because who knows?
You don't know that about J-Rob.
Who knows what Urban Meyer is going to do? For all we know, Jamal Agnew could come out this week and have more carries than James Robinson. Like, that's a realistic possibility. Laviska Shenault could have more carries than James Robinson this week. There's so many different things that could happen. We have no idea. And the way their offense looked week 1, they were terrible. Trevor Lawrence played terrible as well. He got 2 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in total. One was on broken coverage. Safety just didn't come over the top. And then a garbage time touchdown. Otherwise, he played terrible that whole game. So I'm not inspired by their offense at all. And then that defense, they did okay versus the run. I'll give them that, although it was only Mark Ingram getting 26 carries for whatever reason. But Devonta Williams, if he gets 4 yards a carry, if he gets 15 carries, that's 60 yards right there, gets a couple of catches, you're getting close to 9 points. James Robinson, he could get you like 3 points for all we know at this point.
I'm assuming this is like for this week question, because it would be weird to me for that to be a dynasty question. And you just play every Bronco. Just play every Tim Patrick, Hamler. Pick every Bronco. Williams was my full tilt dynasty running back pick of the week. So
yeah, I love it. I think a lot of smart people are picking Javonte Williams to have a big week this week, and I'm excited to see it. One of my favorite draft prospects.
That just means we're all screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Probably. Right. Just you see consensus and just flip it. Just do the exact opposite, and you'll probably win your week. All right, guys, you ready to get into this captain showdown?
Yep.
All right. This is the first one here. We've got this is our Sunday night game, or sorry, this is the Monday nighter. This is the Monday nighter, but we'll just rock it because it's the one that's open right now. Okay. I have all of my entries reserved, but we're going into the Monday nighter. Coach, I want you to. I know you've been building a few lineups this week. Who are your favorite captain plays? And take us through your philosophy behind it.
Let me go to Monday night again. So this one, Monday night, I kind of hate the pricing, honestly, because
it's a fun slate, though. There will be a lot of points scored.
So there's not like any super cheap guys, and I think the big 3 for Green Bay, they're all over $10,400. Aaron Jones being the cheapest one. Jared Goff at $10,000, I think, is a little too pricey. It must just be because he put up decent numbers last week. TJ Hawkinson at $9,600. Like, when I was thinking about this in my mind, I'm almost like tempted to put Deandre Swift in the captain spot and then just like build a whole bunch of Green Bay guys otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I don't hate that. Although I do feel like Detroit is going to be playing from behind. Although last week's any indication as to what we're going to see this year. I mean, like, do you expect the Packers to rebound heavily? Like I do. I think there's no way they come out and look that bad again. If they do, I'm honestly not sure what to think. Like, I'm going to have to reconsider like how I'm looking at this team moving forward for the rest of the year. And so, are you, expecting high scoring affair here? Like, which guys are your favorites to target?
I'm thinking that every Detroit Lions fan that still has their old paper bag hats from like 2008 to 2012 need to dust it off, because this is going to be a butchering. It's going to be it'll be high scoring on one side. I think there's no pulling Rodgers from this game. I think he's going to put up 8, flip off LaFleur, and call it a day, just to prove a point. So I want to smash every single Green Bay player, and I do like Swift in the MVP or in the captain.
In the captain spot. Yeah, I like Swift there as well. And I just think he's going to see that. He's going to see a bunch of target volume. He's one of the best playmakers they have on this team, if not the best playmaker.
Watch them put Jair against Swift everywhere he goes, just because they have no receivers they're worried about. Like, just mess with everybody. It's going to be a running back spy with Jair Alexander.
So
the safety comes down to play corner because they don't need any coverage defenders.
So I'll say this though too. Everybody talks about Jair Alexander and stuff. He does not he shadowed 2 players last year. It's Calvin Ridley and Will Fuller the second half of the Texans game. Those are the only 2 players he shadowed last year. He just stays on his left side of the field, left defensive side of the field, if you're looking at it from the defensive side of view. So I don't think he's going to move with like DeAndre Swift. He could go on hot. Yeah, like he could honestly go on Hawkinson. Their linebackers are terrible in coverage. Chris Barnes, DeAndre Campbell, they're absolute garbage in coverage. So I think if you put Swift up against them, he's going to kill them every single time. Man.
So then would you be more interested in playing somebody like Hawk? And so I'm not a DFS connoisseur. I usually leave that up to more Jacob. So let me ask then, if their linebackers are such absolute dumpster fire trash bags in coverage, are we not looking to maybe use Hawkinson in that MVP then to hedge it? Because if he's going to get the targets 15-ish, right? If you expect,
I think those are the two plays from this Lions team.
I'm just curious. I'm genuinely curious.
Really, it is. Like, I want DeAndre Swift and I want TJ Hawkinson and, potentially maybe Jamal Williams, but we've only got 6 spots. We've talked about it on the last show. Generally, we like to try and build a lineup that's like 4-2. And I don't particularly want to make this lineup 4-2 in favor of the Detroit Lions. So I'm kind of thinking DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, and then we can build the rest of the lineup there. But the interesting part is like the Packers auxiliary pieces. I'm not really interested in either. I only want the big names. I want Aaron Rodgers. I want Aaron Jones. I want Devontae Adams. I'm not I don't want any part of Marquez Valdez-Scantling in this one. I don't want Robert Tonyan. It just doesn't, these are not guys who interest me in this kind of setting. So, maybe we do potentially go in and take 3 of these Detroit players. But Coach, where's your mind at now looking at the rest of this? We'll go through like a couple options here. So starting with DeAndre Swift and the captain, we'll rock that. We'll throw TJ Hawkinson in one of the flex spots. I think we've established that. Now, where are you at?
So here's the thing. If you play Swift and Hawkinson, I don't think you can play the big 3 for Green Bay. I think it just takes up too much money. You can click it in and see how much money is actually left over.
I don't think you can.
No, there's not enough. There's not enough money there. So you kind of make the choice. Do you want to play Rodgers and Adams? I think Rodgers and Adams is probably the 2 that's going to be most chalky, I think. And let me just ask you this. Can anybody here even name the corners for the Detroit Lions at this point in time with Jeff Okudah on IR?
I was just going to say, not after Jeff Okudah went down.
So
that's kind of why I'm into MVS, though. Because if there's ever a time where Rodgers is just going to close his eyes and throw it deep to him, this could be it. So if he's cheap enough to fit in the other studs, isn't that kind of what the
56? I mean, that's what you're aiming for.
Isn't that? I'm just asking for the people that don't know,
so
like me.
I think if you're playing in a GPP, MVS is going to be in play. $5,600 is a little bit more than I like to play for him. He did get out snapped by Allen Lazard week 1. Randall Cobb only played 26% of snaps week 1 too. I think Randall Cobb's going to be a little bit more involved in this game. And Randall Cobb versus undrafted free agent AJ Parker out of Kansas State. That looks like a very juicy matchup as well. The other 2 corners that they do have is Warrior, who's like a 3rd-year player. He's been all right, like really hit or miss in coverage. He's probably going to be the one stuck on Devonta Adams. And then rookie out of Syracuse, I can't even remember how to say his first name, but it's Melifanu is his last name. His brother's.
You can't remember his first name, but you remember that?
Melifanu. Well, it's like, I can't pronounce it, okay?
Just bugging you.
But he, it's his first real career start, so I wouldn't be too excited about him either. Like you kind of talked about with Robert Tonyan, I'm not like super excited about. I think he's a little bit overpriced. And there were linebacker Alex Alazone. He's actually pretty good in coverage. He's very terrible in run support, but he's actually really good in coverage. And he played 100% of snaps week 1. So I believe he's going to be on Robert Tonyan. He kind of looks like Clay Matthews, but a little bit skinnier. He's got the long blonde hair and everything. So, but he came over from the Saints too.
Nice. I just want to update everybody. Chris has tuned into the chat. His Wi-Fi cannot connect. He's blown his top, restarted his laptop. I've been talking to him in the DMs, but Chris, I appreciate you. Taking the time to try and get back in here. It's a shame we couldn't have you on tonight, but next week we'll have to make it double time, equally as effective, so that we can get our Detroit Beastie in. You need to get it in a week. If you don't get your Beastie, you start feeling grumpy. I'll tell you that much. He just puts a smile on my face. I love that guy. Can't thank him enough for what he does coming on the show. And it's a shame we didn't get him on tonight. But let's finish this. Or didn't get him on for the duration of the night. Let's finish this slate here. Two more guys I'm looking at. I just want to throw them out there. Is Quintez Cephas down at $3,800, then Amon-Ra St. Brown. We know Tyro Williams is likely going to be out with the concussion. Couple late flyers who, if this team is coming from playing back from behind, are going to be on the field. They could see a bump in targets, and at that price, there's an opportunity there. Coach, what do you think?
So if you go with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, real quick.
Let's see what that. I don't know if we have room for both of them, to be honest.
No, you should have room for both of them.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we got $4,600 left over. I think AJ Dillon is a guy to consider at $3,000 because I think when it's a blowout, they're just going to run with him like crazy.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cheap actually. That feels underpriced to me. I kind of breezed over in there, and that leaves us $1,600 remaining, so we can fill it out with one of these, even lower guys. This is more your area of expertise, Coach. You scour these guys and do a bunch of research on them. Do any of these guys stand out to you, or would you be looking to
under 1,600? You got three guys probably in play there. Darren Fells would be only for a touchdown, but he didn't play very much week 1. Trinity Benson, if Tyrell Williams is out, he could be in play for $1,000. I believe he played it was either 41% or a little bit over 50% of snaps week 1. So he was definitely out there. He looked pretty good in the preseason. Mercedes Lewis is always a threat for a 1-yard touchdown at $800. So those guys are definitely in play. We could see if we could get up to Randall Cobb at $2,000. Another guy that I kind of like on this slate, but he's probably a little bit overpriced on the Lions side, is Khalif Raymond, $4,400. I believe he played the most snaps for the Lions last week at about 75%. And he's this little short, fast guy. And hopefully he lines up against And hopefully he lines up against Kevin King, because Kevin King cannot cover little, short, fast guys. We've seen it with Scotty Miller and then with Deontay Harris last week. So there could be a long touchdown for him there, but $4,400 might be a little bit too much to bet on that. I do like Cephas that you talked about earlier with the 7 targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, $2,400 is not a bad price, but he didn't do a whole heck of a lot last week, even though he played over 60% of snaps. So that's kind of where I'm at this point.
Well, and we do. I'm just going to throw it out there. We do have a St. Brown brother rivalry game coming on Monday night, so maybe we'll see. I mean, Equanimous ain't getting on the field, but his brother will. His brother will be in this game.
Is Equanimous still even on the Packers?
Yeah, he's still here. He's in this lineup. Like, he's in this slate.
They didn't take the preseason guys out yet either. So
yeah.
I don't know if they signed him back to the practice squad or not. I don't think
I'm honestly not sure, to be honest. Like, I rely on you for that info, Coach, and if you don't know, I don't know. So.
Sorry, I didn't master the whole Packers practice squad. I don't think they signed him back to the practice squad.
I love that honesty.
All right.
You need.
Oh, I love it.
I think.
I try to be transparent here, Thomas. I mean, I'm not going to lie to anybody. I have a busy life. I talk to Coach a lot. This guy's super informed. I highly recommend checking out his YouTube channel. Shoot him a DM if you need some info. He knows everything about football. Like, as in terms of personnel, I've never met somebody who knows the game the way you do, Coach. I got to give you props where props is due there. But let's finish filling this out here, guys. One thing we could do is pull one of these superstars and maybe enter like an Aaron Jones into the lineup, save $1,000, and then target one of these other back end guys. But Coach, I want you to take me through your thought process in doing so. Like, do you think that the drop from, say, like Devontae Adams to Aaron Jones, and then the addition of adding, let's say, Quintez Cephas at $3,800, I actually don't even think it would add that much. We'd have to add
you could add like a Randall Cobb, though.
Yeah, Randall Cobb. Probably,
or you could take TJ Hawkinson out and put like an MVS or an Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb in too. Then you'd have essentially 3 wide receivers for the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. So you hope to get the lead early, kind of spread around the touchdowns to those 3 guys. They're playing catch up with Deandre Swift, targeting him a whole bunch, and then AJ Dillon kind of run the clock out towards the end. That's a possible narrative, at least.
Yeah, well, and you talked about it last night. Whenever you're building a Monday night slate like this, you want to build a story for how you think the game is going to play out. And so, if we're talking realistically, that's Deandre Swift gets it early, Aaron Rodgers scores deep. And then, I still do think there is going to be a ton of targets for TJ Hawkinson. But I'm not opposed to, wiggling this lineup around to make it fit. I do like the pieces that we have in there right now. I think it's relatively chalk. Like a lot of people are going to have this lineup, and this last flex spot has to be a player that we hit on in order to actually, make it count here. So, Coach, I'm going to leave the final decision up to you. In terms of if we're going to remove one of these elite talents or if we're just going to settle for, one of these guys who we're hoping for a touchdown in Trinity Benson or Darren Fells or even Mercedes Lewis.
So if you go with what we have now and do a 4-2, 4 for the Packers, you'd be on Mercedes Lewis. If you went with a 3-3, which usually realistically doesn't come out on top too often, you could do the Trinity Benson, but even then with the Trinity Benson, you're just hoping for some upside there at $1,000. So it's not the worst play in the world. So you could do that, or you could take the TJ Hawkinson out, like I kind of talked about before, put in like a Marcus.
Let's see what happens if we do that.
So is Amari Rodgers not a play for you in that spot at all compared to the other guys?
Amari Rodgers,
27% of the snaps.
Yeah,
but you want
a little bit down the stretch.
I'm just curious.
How much is he again?
He's 400. Malik Taylor as well. These guys basically split snaps in week 1.
Yeah, so they both only played the last 10 minutes of the game in complete garbage time. So there could be that too, but they're probably gonna if they're in garbage time, they're probably kicking the crap out of the Lions and they're gonna run the ball.
Fair. All right. Just checking.
I think you probably see more A.J. Dillon or a Kylan Hill would be better in that situation. So that's kind of why I'm looking at that.
Imagine a late Kylan Hill play.
How much is he on this one?
$200.
He's not bad. You could, but if you play him, then you shouldn't play A.J. Dillon. You could play somebody else in the other spot there.
Well, let's see what happens. We throw that out. Let's throw TJ Hawkinson back in. That gives us 4,400. We could play your boy Khalif Raymond.
Yeah,
or we could go Quintez Cephas.
Three. Let's see. You could play Mason Crosby if you really wanted to, but
yeah, this kind of just gives us our Lions options. We're almost at Adam Lazard. If we eliminate $400 more, we could switch around with the captain spot as well. Pull DeAndre Swift out of there. Maybe put Hawk into that captain spot. I'm not actually sure which one of these guys was.
No, if we put Hawkinson up there, we actually lose $1,800. So
yeah,
that's why I was looking at Swift more in the captain spot. But you could take, if you want, in theory, you could take Swift out of the captain spot, put Jamal Williams up and do that. But then you don't have DeAndre Swift. I think Swift you probably want to have on this one. I think he's probably one of the more fairly priced Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And he's just a guy that I like to root for. So if I have to root against my Packers, I want it to be DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson.
Fair. That's legit.
That's how I play DFS. That's how you win, right?
Sometimes. But I just say in general, this is why with single game slates, you can just go around building these slates for an hour back and forth until you kind of get your perfect combination. And sometimes even when you think you had your perfect combination, you go back and the first one was the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
100%.
kidding. 100%. No kidding. That's kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes, man. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm more in on AJ Dillon being that clock burner. I could get some work on the goal line too if they end up they need a bruiser type of back. I mean, generally Aaron Jones has been fantastic down there himself, but it's not crazy to think that AJ Dillon can go and rumble in for a 1-yard touchdown or something like that. And then if he gets that garbage time rushing work or maybe breaks one free, it's not like we're really paying up for him down there at $3,000. So I like throwing him into the lineup. That gives us our 1,600. Honestly, I think you're really just banking on a touchdown for one of these three guys. And Mercedes Lewis, I think he actually did score last week, correct?
I don't think so.
No, he didn't. So I think that actually bodes well. That bodes well in his favor. It's pretty rare a guy like Mercedes Lewis is going to score twice. Also, I just want to throw this out there. Can we talk about that Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown last night? That was nuts. I was like, who was that? And then they're like, Ricky Seals-Jones. And I was like, the Cardinals tight end?
The Cardinals, Browns, blah, 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 blah.
Like every team. Yeah, the last team he played for was the Browns. Played for the Cardinals, I think, that was 2.5 years ago right? Like I haven't heard Ricky Seals-Jones' name in a while. That's again, I rely on Coach for this kind of information, and and we haven't talked about Ricky.
He was on the Chiefs last year, by the way.
Oh yes, you're right. He was. He totally was on the Chiefs last year.
He was a DNP pretty much every week.
Yeah, but he was. Yeah, that's wild, man. But yeah, that was the nicest play of his entire career. I wanted to make sure I said that on this podcast. What?
He had that 2-touchdown game once. So
yeah, but did you see the catch, Coach?
Yeah, I haven't watched many of his other catches, to be honest.
Yeah,
he's just so unimpressed with it. He's like, whatever. The guy's a jag.
It was nice.
It was plays in the NFL. He should be able to make that catch.
Yeah, he played 7. He had like 7 plays the whole game. Made one incredible catch on his only target. Only time he lined out wide at wide receiver too.
Yeah, and it was probably the best play of his entire career. And he gave Taylor Heineke the comeback victory. So, I mean, not Ricky Seals himself, but there was he was involved. Guys, we're getting off track here. Let's settle on a pick here. I kind of like Mercedes Lewis to fill out the 4-2, and that gives us $800 worth of wiggle room. We talked about this, on the first DFS show that we did 3 weeks ago. Coach, you don't have to fill out that extra money. You don't need to force it so that you use your entire budget. You don't. That the winning lineups don't always have all of their money spent. So don't feel pressured to use the rest of that budget just because you have it available. If you want to go in and tinker, by all means, but don't be set on doing that. So we got that one. The other one we're going to do is the Sunday night showdown. We're supposed to do this one first, but I pulled up the wrong one. So we did the Monday nighter. Now we're back into the Sunday night.
We're going to get them all done.
This game is going to be so much fun, Tom. Like, that's why we got to do it. It's going to be, we got the Chiefs and the Ravens. We got I believe it's a 54 point over under on this game. 54.5 point over under. Baltimore's 4-point underdogs. Last time these two played, Kansas City won 34-20, which would just barely hit that under by half a point. Pretty ridiculous. And I think we see another high scoring affair here. I'm not really sure where we're at with the rest of it, but let's dive into this. It won't, this will be a lot of fun. So with that captain slate, there's a lot of players here. Look, Patrick Mahomes priced at almost $19,000, taking up.
Yeah. These are
basically
all
like
captain spots.
Yeah, this is the captain price. Yeah. But I'm just speaking in terms of the captain situation here. We got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and then obviously Lamar Jackson's another guy that you can go and consider there. Any of you guys got any love for Tyson Williams, or do you think they do approach more of a committee backfield like we've seen them talk about?
Get ready for a 50-50 split. It's going to be gross.
I love it because I feel that way as well. Yeah.
Or it could be worse too. Devonta Freeman was activated this week. He's on the and I actually like him somewhat for this slate just because he's only $400.
Like he could get in there and be Latavius Murray last week, who scored. It could happen. It's not crazy.
$400 if he gets you like 6-8 points, he's already worth it. Not for the captain spot though. Not for the captain spot. No. Please no.
That's don't do that.
I mean, there is a line that you could do that if you're trying to stuff Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and like a cheap option in. You could do that in theory, but for me, most of these guys are pretty aggressively priced. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they're all pretty priced up. Marquise Brown, even him at $9,000 for the regular price is pretty tough, especially he's got an ankle injury right now that he didn't practice twice this week. He did practice limited capacity today. Sammy Watkins, you got a revenge game narrative there, but I'm not betting $7,800 on Sammy Watkins in a revenge game. It's not going to happen.
I feel like Sammy Watkins always has a revenge game narrative.
This is a weird slate, right? Because I don't want to bet on any Raven in this game because Ronnie Stanley's probably not playing, and Villanueva's absolute trash can pylon while he's standing. He was horrific. That whole line is horrific. And Lamar Jackson had to be a superhero for them to be moderately okay at football. It's terrifying. I personally am avoiding the slate entirely. I don't know how you would stack this game and make it worth it. This is one of those island slates that I am just mortified to play personally.
Well,
So,
Tom, that's why we're here. We're building
here
this
to
because there's a
learn,
lot of
so-
people in your position who
I
are
know.
not really sure how to attack a slate like this. And Coach and
I want to cry with this game.
well, Coach and
I
Chris,
wanna cry.
they're both DFS specialists when it comes
know.
to building showdowns like this, and general DFS as well. But these showdown slates are really intimidating for a lot of people. Me included when I first started playing DFS, and so that's really why we're trying to break down into these. So, Coach, let's start to build a lineup here. We'll keep Devonta Freeman in there and see what we can build, because I think we can still go ahead and make a really nice lineup. With some of the value that we can find on the board. One guy that's just jumping out to me is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, down there at $7,400. In comparison to the other playmakers, Sammy Watkins is priced higher than him. I just feel like with this slate, it's almost, a no-brainer to go and lock him in just for the value that he brings to your lineup. Do you agree?
So I do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I have some hesitations too, because we don't know exactly how often they're going to run the ball. First of all, Baltimore's been pretty good against the run. If you look back to the playoffs last year, if you look back, Josh Jacobs didn't do anything besides score those 2 touchdowns. Like, he got lucky on a couple of runs, but otherwise the Raiders couldn't run the ball at all, even though their offense line's kind of trash cans anyways. But Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, they're kind of big and scary up front, even if they're getting old now. So I think Clyde's in play. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to get him. Mark Andrews at $6,200, I'm kind of interested in, because I assumed he'd be closer to like $8,000 or so. If you just look at the difference between him and Travis Kelce, that's $4,200. And is he Travis Kelce? Does he have the consistency of Travis Kelce? No. But could he potentially have a similar type of upside? It's in the range of possibilities. So Mark Andrews is somebody I'm kind of looking at the captain spot, just because it's a way to save some money there, because he's only $9,300 in the captain spot. It's a possibility. Otherwise, I'm probably going to look at Tyreek Hill. I'm probably going to look at Travis Kelce and then stack their quarterback with them.
Okay. I think last week I had a Tyreek Hill Patrick Mahomes stack that paid off very nicely for me in a DFS slate, but it was one that I did have to pay up for. I personally, I lean to the pass catchers on the Chiefs side. The problem is I'm not sure which one to put in. I just find it's so difficult to, when you're banking on the captain spot here, you have to go and decide on one of these guys specifically. And I find it really difficult to choose which one. Travis Kelce generally seems like more of a volume play, but Tyreek Hill sometimes sees, 13, 14 targets in a game. And so then he becomes the play that week. Which one of them are you more comfortable in that captain spot, pairing him with Patrick Mahomes?
So in this case, you can make a case for both guys. You can make a case for Tyreek Hill, because the Ravens corners are gone now, essentially. Marcus Peters is gone. The West Street kid that they had playing, that they were kind of talking up in the last game, he's on IR now. Jimmy Smith, we don't know if he's going to play. Jimmy Smith's always banged up anymore because he's like 34 years old. There's still Marlon Humphrey there. Hopefully, like, you pray to God Marlon Humphrey just shadows him the whole game. But sometimes that just doesn't happen with the Ravens. They're weird. Sometimes he shadows the wide receiver all game. And other games, they're just like, whatever, we'll just put him on like whoever. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. But if Tyreek Hill gets on Anthony Everett, that's like game over. If he gets on Tavon Young, who, if he plays as bad as he did versus the Raiders, he played so bad he got benched in that game. So, and
Sounds like it's Tyreek Hill.
But at the same time, you got Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison. They're not, at least as rookies, they were not good in coverage. Maybe you put Chuck. I guess you probably put Chuck Clark on Travis Kelce. That might work out for you.
Watching what happened with Darren Waller in that game just makes me feel really giddy about all Travis Kelce fantasy plays, even though it's going to make me, again, shed many tears.
Yeah. So And here's the thing too, is week 1, I believe Travis Kelce got 7 targets and Hill got like 15 or 16. It's probably going to be the reverse this game, just because like it always evens out somehow. They always get very close to the same. It just, some games is Hill, some games is Kelce. So
that's what I mean. It's so hard to decide on which one is. So do you think because last week it was Hill, we swap it this week and we plug in Travis Kelce?
Yeah, I think you're going to end up playing both either way, and they're both very similar price. So I think I'd just take that little extra savings with Travis Kelce.
Fair enough. Definitely fair. And then, of course, we want to stack the quarterback there. So add Patrick Mahomes. That gives us $21,000 for our last 3 flex spots. And, two guys we've talked about earlier in this game or on this slate, Mark Andrews and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, are both down there reasonably priced to fit into this budget. Or do you think you'd prefer to spend up on a Lamar Jackson or a Tyreek Hill and get that, that Chiefs triple stack and then just go super cheap on the last 2?
Oh, this is like why it's so hard, because probably the 4 guys that you want to play the most: Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Lamar Jackson, and they're all priced up. So it's in theory, you could put all 4 of them in one lineup. It would be difficult, but you're going to play some cheap guys. That's where you get the Devonta Freemans of the world. We could try doing that with the 4 expensive guys if you want, real quick.
Like throw like Tyreek up here, or would you probably want to lean Lamar?
No, we're a little bit short for that, I think. Yeah, we can't do both.
No, I don't think we can do both. But we could do one, and then one of these auxiliary pieces, and then go from there. But
so
yeah, this is really these are tough. These are tough slates to build.
Yeah,
so
playing Lamar Jackson, I think, would be suboptimal.
So in this case,
as a Ravens fan,
I am the paragon of objectivity when it comes to watching my favorite team play. I know when things are in trouble, and again, Lamar Jackson had to be a superhero, and he was like QB 22. It's terrifying. He's got quarterback 2 this week written all over him. Unless he goes full Superman, I don't know. He might, but I don't know.
Do you
just acting all?
Let me just ask you this real quick, though. Because like in that game, it seemed like Lamar was really trying to stay in the pocket more. Like he wasn't trying to leave until it was like last minute that he has to. Do you think he's going to try to do that? Like, is that just going to be a constant theme this year, or you think he's going to kind of kick that bucket real quick?
But look what Gus Bradley did to him. He rushed 4 because he knew he didn't have to. Like Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue were made to look like the Watt brothers playing on the same team in their prime. Like they didn't have to do anything else. They played cover 3, dropped their linebacker. I think they blitzed twice, got to him on both occasions. Mm-hmm. Teams are already figuring out that they don't have to worry about the backfield. They don't have to worry about the wide receivers. So just cover the tight end and make him sit there. Even when he did break out, he didn't do much with it, aside from, again, when he was being a superhero. So I think you're going to see a front 3 or 4 rush consistently, and everyone basically just playing let's watch what he does now. And he's going to have to create at a level that just hasn't been seen.
Mm-hmm. And even I'd say in that game too, they pretty much tried to take Mark Andrews away, first of all, and then they just made sure that Hollywood Brown couldn't get over the top on them. That's all they did. Like, we're just going to go after you with 4 guys, take Mark Andrews away, and not let Brown get over the top. And good luck beating us otherwise.
It was those cover 3 over drags that really were the only things that were open. If you're going to tell me that Tyro Matthew can't shut that down, it's going to be rough. I'm expecting a full blowout by Kansas City for Baltimore. Like, it's going to be rough. I know.
Well, I think we could see a similar situation with Mark Andrews this week in getting shut down. So there's obviously some concern that way. Does that lead you to play more of a Hollywood Brown coach, for 9,000 here, or would you and then go with one of these real cheap guys later? Do you have any interest in like the Mecole Hardmans, the DeMarcus Robinsons? You can fill out this lineup with Mark Andrews and grab one of those guys, or we can grab a more high profile player and attack this lower tier.
So there's a lot of factors in this game that we still don't fully know, because there's a chance Hollywood Brown still could not play. I'm not interested in playing him at 9,000, especially if he's got a bum ankle right now, because that just kills his speed, and that's one of his best attributes, even if he did look a little bit better as a route runner week 1. So that's not somebody I'm interested in. I have a little bit of interest in McCole Hardman just because of the lack thereof options for cornerbacks for the Ravens, saying that in kind of the nice way. I think he's the type of guy that could beat the corners they have too. And he played out of the slot most of the time week 1 when he was in the game. So I think that's a matchup that could take advantage of him there. And he's a guy, all you need is that one long play. You can get one long touchdown and he pays off right away. Let's see.
So with Mikkel in the lineup, I just wanted to see where we're at. We could add Mark Andrews at 6,200. That's the highest we can go. Is that something, you're looking at, or as we alluded to, you're not excited about Mark Andrews in this matchup after being shut down last week? Are you kind of looking elsewhere?
Because you can take it kind of two different ways, honestly. It depends. Part of it probably depends on who you think is going to cover Mark Andrews too. Because their linebacker, like the Chiefs linebackers, aren't very good in coverage either, like the guys that they were rolling out starting. So if he gets paired up against a linebacker, it's advantage Mark Andrews. If you get a little bit of Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger down there on him, if you get like a Daniel Sorensen, Juan Thornhill was actually playing a little bit of like slot corner last week too. So there's a wide variety of ways they could try to take him away. So it's not like something I'm super excited about, but I could definitely see it work out as well. So it's kind of like an open-ended answer to your question, but there's a lot of different guys on this slate that are interesting, especially like if Hollywood Brown doesn't play, Devin Duvernay could be in play at $2,200, but he's kind of banged up too. So then like there's a realistic world where Brown and Duvernay both don't play. And you only have Sammy Watkins and James Prochet and Tylan Wallace. And then maybe you get like a little bit of a Josh Oliver stab at $200, but that doesn't sound very exciting either. I hate Josh Oliver and I hate everybody who brings him up all the time. But he barely played week 1,
a little
too.
Harsh. Barely played, but he still had a red zone target.
Yeah. Coach just throws the word hate around like it's no big deal.
I think it was so him and Kaleo, or I can't pronounce his first name, Warren, that the Texans drafted that same year. I believe they both went to like San Diego State, and I didn't like either tight end in that class. I'm like, why are these guys getting drafted there? But it's just like one of those don't let me rant about athletic tight ends that don't pan out ever. That's a whole hour subject some other day.
That's a conversation for a different episode. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, I think under the circumstances that are here, we've built a very strong Kansas City heavy offensive team. And, the probability is if Hollywood doesn't play and if Devin Duvernay doesn't play and Mark Andrews is the only receiving option that Lamar Jackson has any rapport with, just based on volume alone, I mean, this is going to be Darren Waller week 1 effect. I don't think he'll see 19 targets by any means,
right.
but he will get touchdown. I mean, he will get, if he's the only receiver with any rapport with Lamar Jackson, he will get peppered with targets. And adding him into the lineup here, I think it's not a whole lot of risk. I think we've got a relatively safe lineup here. Even if we get literally nothing out of Devonta Freeman at $400, we've still added pretty much the best playmakers on the field outside of Lamar Jackson, who's going to be, running for his life around there. So I'm actually quite a fan of this line. I think we're pretty good locked in here with building this. And now everybody knows how we're going to win some money this week, Coach. They can go and copy us. And yeah, hopefully not like everybody on DraftKings is watching this, because then we're not going to win any money. But like if some people win money because of the pod, I'm going to be pumped. So, yeah, we're running a little bit behind tonight, guys, but I am going to go ahead and lock this in. I'm happy to do that. We got through all of our segments together. Woo! It was a very treacherous path that we had to tour through to get here, but we did it. And I just wanted to say thanks to both of you guys. Thomas, thanks so much for just jumping on. You're you're just the best, hitting up the comments and then just jumping into the pod at the very end. Like that's just absolutely fantastic. This is why you're one of my favorite people out there on Twitter. You can find Thomas on Twitter at Thomas Tipple FF. You can find him on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. You can also find him on the Walkabout podcast. Is there any other places that I missed that people can find you talking?
I'm everywhere on the ether, man. Even if you don't see the stuff. Look, one thing you can definitely catch you doing is on game days moving forward. I'm gonna be pumping the clips that you're gonna miss. If you're not just tuning in the red zone, so you can catch that. I'll be doing that all year. I'm gonna be getting that in, and yeah, like you mentioned, just full tilt everything, man. We're coming everywhere. 4 shows now on the brand. You can catch the fantasy walkabout on Tuesday nights. We got Big Billy FF doing the Sunday review. That's out on Mondays. We got the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast on Fridays, and we have Jacob Sanderson's DFS slate. No free squares every Saturday now at 6 Eastern. So 4 shows launching for the brand in year 1. So pretty stoked about it. And like I said, I'm always happy to come and hang with y'all. I'm leaving my Friday nights open now.
Well, I love it. I love having you on here, Thomas. You're a real pleasure, a true gentleman and a scholar. I can't thank you enough. Ooh. And thank you for pumping out those highlight videos, though. Those are absolutely fantastic. I look forward to those because I do get to see, I sit down, I watch football all day Sunday, but I miss stuff and I have to go back and find all that, so I appreciate it, my man. And for the people, thank you so much. Again, you can find him on Twitter at Thomas Tipple FF. Go check it out. Go check out the podcast. He's a fun dude, smart guy, knows what he's talking about. And on my left here, my co-host, Coach Craig. You can find him on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. You can also check out his YouTube page at Coach Craig Sports with an S. He's dropping pretty much daily videos on there right now, mid-season. I think it is daily, right, Coach? Every day you're basically pumping something out, whether it be a DFS video or a waiver wire show or a start-sit show. So, just tell us what you're working on.
So every day besides Sunday, essentially. But Monday is go through the top performers for the week. Tuesday's waiver wires. Wednesday is start and sit for the Thursday night football matchup. Thursday is the review of the Showdown slate for the Thursday night football. Friday, I do the dollar store stacks. So I look at quarterbacks that you can pair with like wide receiver or tight end options for DFS, stack together, save a little bit of money so you can pay up for some of them studs. Just depending on the week, your studs are going to be different, but those are the guys that you're going to win GPPs with, or your cheap quarterback that you can stack with like a cheap wide receiver or cheap tight end, because you're going to get your more studs into your lineup overall. It's kind of a concept maybe not everybody understands for NFL DFS, but it's kind of obviously I did NBA DFS and finding those value plays and getting the right ones and then nailing the studs down with them. That's what really takes you over the top there. So you can apply some of that over as well. And then Saturday is the starts and sits for all the 30 remaining teams. So everybody that hadn't played already for the week.
That is fantastic, Coach. You're a very busy man. I mean, I do one show a week, and I feel like I'm drowning. I'm like, oh my goodness. It's very impressive what you do. And then you're on here on Friday nights as well. Every Friday you're with me talking some DFS. So absolutely phenomenal work. I can't thank you guys both enough. We are half an hour over the time frame that we were planning on ending the show. I feel like this is a pretty consistent thing. I now just like book everything and out. I just give myself an extra half hour to do everything. But you guys have been an absolute pleasure. This one has been a blast. I hope some people win some money this week with our DFS advice on the Captain Slate Showdown. If you want to play the main slate, go check out the SODFS podcast that came out yesterday. They cover the entire main slate, all the price points of the players they're interested in. Nate and Dan Brown absolutely crushing it with this was the third episode of the SODFS launched just this season. And we too, Thomas, we actually have 5 shows coming out this week, starting on Tuesdays all the way to Saturday nights. So I'm definitely very, very excited for our True North crew for the rest of the season, what we got going on. Go follow the whole crew over at True North FFB. .com. You can find all of our information there. You can find all of our Twitter handles. And you can find all of our podcasts over on the brand new website. Go check it out. It's pretty wicked. We've got a bunch of new content on there. We want people to use that. We want them to actually have that as a resource, not just like you're looking up our website to see who we are. No, like we want people to be going there to actually use the valuable resources and the information that we've been putting together all off season. So go check it out, truenorthffb.com. Make sure you check out Monkey Knife Fight. As always, Viridian Global, can't thank them enough. I got my Brighter Skies t-shirt on tonight, got my Viridian Global hat on. I actually just placed a purchase with Viridian Global today for some more merch that is in the mail as we speak. So go check them out. Yeah, thanks guys so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to hit the button, get out of here for the night. You guys enjoy the rest of your Friday, and good luck this week in your fantasy football DFS slates, your fantasy football dynasty leagues, and most importantly, your home leagues. Goodbye.